With me now is Jane Hamsher, founder of the blog FireDogLake.com. Jane, it's great to have you on. So you blogged about this. You spoke about John Tyner. That's the guy who set off the firestorm this week when he videoed his pat down or refusal of a pat down in an airport, and now he's being investigated by the TSA for leaving out of the secured area. In the end, where do you stand on this, Jane?
Well, the Airline Pilots Association, as you mentioned, called this mentioned that it was equal to sexual molestation. And they've told the pilots not to submit to these screeners because of very high levels of radiation coming out of them.
Do you agree with that sexual molestation comparison, Jane?
It looks pretty creepy. I got to tell you, I haven't had it happen to me, but I know that Mike Johans yesterday in the Homeland Security, or I'm sorry, the Commerce Committee, had actually had it happen to him and was pretty angry about it. I have to say, I think that these senators and Congress people should actually have to go through this, and let's have this on video. Let's watch it in a congressional session and see if they like it.
Well, and I think many would agree, maybe with the language creepy, or as the TSA says, invasive. But in the end, the TSA says this is for our security. I want to play what John Pistol said during the TSA hearing just yesterday.
So if your question is, do I understand the sensitivities of people? Yes. If you're asking, am I going to change the policies? No, because I think that is what being informed by the latest intelligence, the latest efforts by terrorists to kill our people in the air. No, I'm not going to change those policies.
And what's your response to that, Jane?
Yeah, Pistol also said that these machines were the best way to prevent what happened with the underwear bomber, because that was what they used to justify going around Congress, who told they couldn't have it, and appropriate $25 million in stimulus funds to buy them. Except the GAO did a report and said there's no evidence that these machines would have actually caught the Christmas bomber, and that $25 million created one job. That wasn't appropriate use of stimulus money. So now they have $173 million worth of these things coming down. And people don't want to use them. So it's punitive. These gropes are being done only on people who refuse to go through this.
Yeah.
If it makes us safer, why don't they do it on everybody?
Well, you know, they do it on the people who won't go through the scanners, that won't go through the body scanners. And now the TSA says that they will not do these pat downs on kids younger than 13 years of age. But in the end, Jane, you have some who say, listen, flying is not a right. It's a luxury, really, quite honestly, when you look at the tickets of price of the tickets these days. When you go into this area, you agree to some security measures that need to be taken. What about that side of the argument, that this is not a right to fly?
Well, you know, there are places you can only get by flying. And you're talking about levels of radiation that are dangerous for women who are at risk of breast cancer, old people, children. The levels of radiation, Dr. David Brenner is the person who wrote the guidelines, and he now says he wouldn't have done it because originally the TSA only wanted to use this in rare cases when they had reasonable cause and suspected something had gone wrong. But now it's going to be their primary use, their primary method that they use to screen people. And you've got Michael Chertoff there, you know, telling people that this is a fabulous idea without telling people that the company that makes these is a client of his. I mean, it looks like a giant scam, and when they're at risk of not being able to get people to use them, they try and intimidate them, both by forcing them to have these very unreasonable searches and by prosecuting them, like John Tyner, who I spoke with yesterday.
Interesting point you make, Jane, and there are many lawmakers who are calling for hearings to further look at these TSA measures when it comes to security screening. Jane, thank you so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Tamara.
Absolutely.